Good morning, students. It is the second video of the lesson. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Composed by Gordon Cook and Alan Est. And here I would like to give you a brief description of the writer Gordon Cook and Alan Est, who are the men who have composed this very story on the basis of research and reality that you will know. Here I would like to tell you about Gordon Cook, who was born on December 3, 1978 in Toronto. He is a two-time Canadian Olympic sailor. He sails for the Royal Canadian Yacht Club. He is the son of Stephen Cook and Linda Cook. He had a great interest in writing stories too. Alan Est was admitted to the role of solicitors in 2003. He has gained extensive experience as litigator, manager, and legal trainer. In 2010, Alan joined Coventry University as a senior lecturer in law. They are writers, and you can see how nicely they have been represented to you. You can see them. On 25th December, the writer's ship was in the southern Indian Ocean, 3,500 kilometers to the east of Cape Town. The family celebrated their new year on board the ship. In the morning, on January 2, the waves were so gigantic, unfriendly weather and huge waves compelled the sailors to slow their speed, drop a storm jib, and take some other precautions so that they could continue their journey without much disturbance. The danger was so obvious that the sailors completed life raft drill, attached lifelines and life jackets. Suddenly, at 6 p.m., a tremendous explosion shook the wave walker. It was such a tremendous explosion that really shook them. They were terrified, and the author was thrown overboard. The ship was about to capsize when another gigantic giant wave hit it, tossing it upright once again. It was unthinkable to happen. The author was thrown back onto the deck. His head and ribs smashed against the walls. His teeth broke and it started bleeding. In spite of his injuries, the narrator took charge of the situation. His ribs were broken. Somehow he found the well lined up the stream for the next wave and hung on till Mary appeared and took charge of the well. Larry and Herb started pumping out water like madmen. The whole starboard side bulged inward. It could not be recognized. The narrator managed to cover canvas across the gaps. Why? To prevent water from entering the sea. Water was gushing into the sea. It was as if everything was floating. They were in the flood. Then came more problems, unending problems. The problem multiplied. It did not reduce, instead, it increased. The hand pumps stopped working. Another problem, wicked problem, endless problem. Electric pumps that were working that also short circuited. Oof, so so big problem how they could save their lives. In spite of all these injuries, they did not lose hope. They continued their efforts. The narrators left ribs cracked, his mouth filled with blood and broken teeth. He found the wheel, lined up the stone for the next wave and hung on. He could see water everywhere, but they were thirsty, and they tried to investigate the well. Suddenly, the front hatch was thrown open, and Mary appeared. She said, "We are sinking." She screamed. "The decks are smashed. We are full of water." "Who said?" Mary said. He shouted at the well as he scrambled for the hatch. Fortunately, her and Larry both were pumping like madmen. Broken timbers hung at crazy angles. A whole starboard side had bulged inward. Cloths, crockery, charts, tins, and toys lost about in deep water. Really, he half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin and asked whether they were all right. And they answered from an upper bunk that she said that she was little hurt in her head. There was a big bump over her eyes, above her eyes, and she had no time to worry. And the narrator wanted to do something but wanted to save all. Fortunately, the narrator found a spare electric pump under the chart room that worked. The entire night was spent in pumping, steering, repairing, and sending radio signals, made calls, but surprisingly there was no reply. The narrator checked charts and calculated. What did he calculate? That there was Isle Amsterdam, a French scientific base was their only hope, and they wanted to reach there. Sue and John were injured, but they said that they were not afraid to die if they could all be together. Sue's head was swollen. She had a deep injury. The narrator became more determined, seeing his children's courage, as they promised that if they were all together, they need not be afraid to die. Their determination really gave the narrator courage. Finally, they reached Amsterdam, a volcanic island where they were welcomed by 28 inhabitants. It was a very crucial day, January 4 and 5, and on January 4, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, they reached the last few centimeters of water. They had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. They could not set any sail on the mainmast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So they hoisted the storm jib and headed for where he had thought the two islands were. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits. It was the first meal almost in 2 days. But the respite was short-lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind them. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots. That is the measurement of the sea distance, and the seas were getting higher. Again, it fluffed. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by morning, January 5, their situation was again hopeless. When the narrator went in to comfort the children, John asked Daddy whether they were going to die. He tried to assure him that they could make it, but Daddy went on. If they all are together, they are not afraid to die. You and Mummy, Shiva and I, they said. Really, it was a great resolution. It really heightened his courage and the thought of just living a very good life, and they just facing the oncoming waves using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. That evening, Mary and he sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. They both felt the end was very, very near. They realized it. End was very, very near. And what did happen on 6th January? That I will tell you in the next video that you surely watch. Thank you. Thank you, children. And I hope you will watch the next video. Thank you again. Thank you, children. I hope you will watch and see all these things nicely. Thank you.